Hiya, it's Xavier and welcome to the newest part of the bonsai retreat. Today is not about this area, you'll see that in future videos when not a lot happens in the winter. But today I'm just introducing a little bit of work I did on the Mugos way back around the 10th of July. So let's pop into that clip now. You know, some mornings I wake up and I just don't know where to look and what to start and what to do. I always think this time of the year it's when I can slow down, but there's no doubt the challenge of maintaining YouTube, keeping it interesting and also keeping us for my trees is it's pretty demanding. But hey, that's my problem, not yours. First thing, I have to apologise, particularly to one person who's been waiting for me to do my pruning of my Mugo Pine. And normally there's this point, it's late June probably, where you can basically cut back your tips on your Mugo Pines. Here, so you might have a tip on this one and you can cut right back and then promote back budding a lot further down. And yeah, and I planned to do it a couple of weeks ago. And I mean, the candle here is still fleshy, but I'll be honest, I've got caught out with other stuff, and also I'm not quite sure where I'm going with the style yet, and because I'm not going to do the styling until the autumn, I've kept on dithering. Tell you what I will do, I've got two of these Mugos. They both, as I say, they were repotted last year, they're doing very healthy and we've got lots of growth on them, so I'm always nervous about doing too much with them at this time of the year, especially if I want to do some styling. But I've got two, and I do want to learn the techniques and what responds well and not. So I have got overly long candles, and I have got some back buds on this branch. I've got a candle here. I'm leaving the needles there, so I want to try and get back budding in there. I've got a little bud there, which I wouldn't want to touch or do anything with, but it makes me feel like I could actually have a look and see what happens. So I'm gonna, and there's also a bud in there, so I'm going to trim this year's growth back to sets of needles there, and you just check, see if that's old growth. That could be last year's needles. There's the new candle, so you do need to have needles back there. So I'm going to go to these first few pairs in here and just take it back there. So we've got some needle pairs there, and just see how it reacts to it. Again here, I'm leaving those needles there, but this is going to be too long, so let's cut it back and see what it produces, and let's experiment on my trees. I'm not being completely nutty about it. I already know I've got branches in place that I want, and I can also use this as an opportunity to just experiment a little bit on branches that I'm less worried about. Here's one as well, all the green from this New Year's growth. I'm going to cut it all the way back, half the candle, take the candle off there and just see what happens. So what hopefully we'll be able to show there is this one I haven't done any candle pruning on, and say this is first week in July. This one I've candle pruned all of them, but I've done it knowing that there are actually some back buds that have developed from last year's pruning, so that I know that if I get absolutely nothing or no results from what I've done, I've still got a lot of stuff to work with. And you know, this is learning for me. I will watch what happens with this one, and when I come to do the styling on both of these, which is going to be in the autumn time, we'll have a look and see if there's any sign of any sort of results on it. So if you're uncertain about your Mugos, as perhaps I am a little bit, then don't follow this yet. Let's wait and see what happens. And, you know, another year doesn't make a great deal of difference in the long scale and the grand scale of bonsai. So that's all I'm going to do with the Mugo. Hopefully that's something. As I say, I've removed some needles from areas where I definitely don't want back buds, and I've left needles in places where let's see if we do get back buds from. But yeah, so that's my little Mugo Pine thing done. Okay, well that looked all pretty reasonable, but here we are now, what, the 20th of September, and I bet you want to see just how that all worked out. I know I do. Well, in fact, I already do know, because it's now the day after. But anyway, let's go and have a look, shall we? Welcome back. It's the 22nd of September now. Just a minute ago I was showing you one of the Mugos. I'd done some candle chopping, and I said it was a little bit late, and the other one I left alone. To be fair, the one that I chopped late has just got some little buds showing up on it, and so we'll be fine next year. But it does go to show I should have done that just a little bit earlier than when I did. But both of them got lots of buds on them, and now we're going to get them into some decent soil, because when I slipped these in, as you saw last year, it was literally just in the same soil that they came from the nursery store. They've all got ugly grafts on them, which is giving bulges, and they don't seem really set up for one thing or other. So my primary aim is actually going to get them in soil, but I may remove one or two branches. This first one, and I mean, for you, you've only just seen it. For me, it's been 6 weeks since I last saw this. You know, it's looking really healthy, lots of green growth. Got some shorter needles to remove. If we look in, there was the site where I cut it. We've had nothing growing around there, but at the base there, there's a couple of candles that have come up here. But if you actually look down the line there, there's a little brown bud there that's come up. So there's definitely buds coming, and I think there's going to be something at the back there as well. So it didn't hurt doing that candle prune. And again, we look here, I've cut here, this one, whereas this one I didn't cut, and this one's got 1, 2, 3, 4 candles around it. Now these, if you compare them, they were both cut at the same time. This one's actually produced 1, 2, 3 buds near the top, whereas this one actually produced the buds further back. So, you know, they've reacted differently, but they all responded to the cuts. Now the other thing we looked at was needle plucking, and I think I said with Mugo Pine, you actually leave needles where you want back budding to take place. So if we again zoom in on this example, and I'll show you exactly how that worked out. And if we look at this branch here, I left needle pairs there and needle pairs there and plucked everything around it. And just there, we've got lovely brown bud. So potentially that's going to give me options for the future, but it's going to take a good couple of years to grow. So, but that's just to show, didn't pluck there or there, nothing came from there, but something came from there. But now what do we do with it? As I said, our main action is going to be looking at the roots. There is an issue, and I think it's between these two branches here. They're almost running parallel to each other, and trying to work out how to get the best angle or potting angle out of this, because we've got this horrible bulge here, which I can nibble away slowly, but that's the result of the graft. You know, you think, oh, tell you what, why don't we go that way and try and cascade this thing down, and perhaps wire stuff up and create a cascade, and that might be an option. Or we could wire this one round and try and create a more, a sort of informal upright maybe, and do something like that. That might work, but this is an awful lot of straight, and I want movement. So going by the 30% rule, which I've just pulled out of the air, it's a bit like sheen. I think Susan keeps going on about she's been looking up, where do you find this word sheen or shin, which Ryan Neal keeps using to refer to underneath the tree and developing it. And I think she sort of narrowed it down and said it seems to refer to sort of the pine group or stuff like that, but certainly not to deciduous. But anyway, anyone else who can actually find a definition of sheen that isn't actually to do with polishing tables, let me know, because I'll stop saying that word if it's ridiculous. Anyway, what I have decided, if I keep this, then I would have to get rid of that. So then we're left with the option of 2 there. But that still doesn't get past. We're going to have an awful lot of nothing here. And yes, we could possibly bend that down, but it's all that nothing. So I'm going to remove it, and then I'm going to repot. And I don't know whether I'll end up going somewhere sort of semi-cascade with these 2 branches, or what. I'm still really undecided, and I'm going to let the tree try and tell me. And also that will resolve where we're going to get some obvious swelling there. I'm not going to try and get it all the way back. I'm just going to let you do that. There we go. To be fair, even with that gone, I'm happier, and I might stare at that for a bit longer, but let's get it potted up now. And I might also do some, just remove some of these needles where I definitely won't be wanting any back budding anyway. I think we're at the stage where if it hasn't back budded yet, then it probably isn't going to. So we can continue to clean the needles away. No surprises. I changed my mind as I went along. So I'll just show you what I've been doing. Plucking out a lot of the taller needles, so they've got much tighter growth here. I've actually wired this up a little bit. I don't know where it's going to, but I just do see more of a tree potentially in there. A lot of this would have to come back, so I'm looking at more back budding and growth from here. But what I have been able to do here is just clear this out of some of these needles, plucking the same way I do with any pine. And you can see one cleans these up. There's quite a lot of bug areas there and it rots. Now if I'm going to be bending this to continue this line up this way, we've obviously got this branch on this side, which means I've got basically 1, 2, 3, 4 all coming from the same point. If I'm going to be bending this further round that way, this is the one that I don't need. So let's get rid of it. So let's take this wire up and around a little bit further, up there, and up there. And I'm thinking more that way, so we could just let's say this is nowhere near final shape, but I'm just trying to give it a sense of something before I put it up. There's no doubt wire and a bit of fiddling changes your mind every single time. This is going to be the line up there, up there, up there, up there. Branches going down, down, across here. So that's the tree. This part here, I'm keeping this purely because the tree needs to have strength. But I can see that actually being removed as well. So the first branch will be this one, then this will be the second one. That's what I'm going for. Now let's get it into some soil. And the soil I'm using, same thing I'm using for all the pines now, pretty well a 70% pumice, 30% zeolite. I've got a little bit of the Kaiser number 2 that I'm mixing in as well to bulk it out, but it's all pretty well, I think that's about 98% inorganic. So just got to decide whether I put it into a basket or what. I'll have a look. Very wet in there, by the way, and that tells you again, soil's so wrong. In hindsight, definitely I could have taken a lot more of this soil off when I did that first repot. I was very nervous about that, but it was a younger tree. I could have done a lot more, but hey ho, it's not actually ruined anything by doing this. So all I'm doing now is just having a look and see whether I can get rid of this. Actually, I don't like this root. There's some nice roots on there, but clear up the tops here. I have no doubt that there's other people who would go a lot further. Say, it's still a voyage of discovery for me. The repot last year went well at this time. I took nothing off. This time I'm taking 50% off, but I have also taken off quite a major branch. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. Right, so pond basket in hand, so to speak. I'm going to plonk this in there. Scrunch it in. Just got a very basic wire secure from the base of this. Well, truthfully, this is miles away from where I originally saw it. I had absolutely no vision at all, and suddenly, like the sun right now, vision has exploded upon me. And I hope you like the way it's going to go. So there it is, in its pond basket, all nicely kitted in. The main line straight out the middle there, continuing off this way. So there's the main tree. I've actually wired this one here out a little bit because I may end up keeping that, and also potentially, well certainly for now, I can imagine what I'll do is I'll lose that lump there and slowly reduce back depending on back budding. But, well, I think if we compare the picture of what it was like before and then see what it's like now, I actually think we've potentially got a bonsai on our hands. Yeah, we're lacking, sadly lacking something here, but hey ho, can't ask for everything. But from that sort of angle, even the trunk and the bits and pieces don't look half bad. So I'm going to feed that heavily once it's bedded in, and we'll see what happens next year. Now, let's go have a look at the next one. Well, this second one, I'm filled with as much enthusiasm as I was with the first, and hey, look what happened with the first one. Again, I'm going to do exactly the same thing again. I've had good explosion of budding. I've got an even better example of, in fact I show, excuse me, I burped. I've got an even better example of back budding where needles have been left in. But what I'll do is once I've shown you that, I'm then going to skip all that boring stuff and show you how it looks at the end. You'll like that, I bet. And I know this video is going too long anyway. Just here, I left a little pile of needles. I got rid of everything around it. And from there you can see I've actually got 1, 2, there's a third bud behind it. So again, it's not always consistently the same, but there I got 3 buds from leaving needles. And potentially what will happen is this great log length here will end up getting removed at some point with all the new growth being up here. And that is why you leave needles on where we want back buds. Alright, well I'm not going to pretend this is any great work of wonder. To be fair, the roots were a lot worse than I thought. The soil was very, very damp, so it goes to show that in that first video where I didn't remove enough, I should have removed a lot more of that nursery soil. So if you were going to do this again, you know, this is the right time to do the repot, but certainly on this nursery stock material, take substantially more of that that rubbish soil out and get it into a nice inorganic mix. But this is only wired down because I don't see this branch being part of the design. Main trunk up here. I'm not sure what's going to happen here. It's a difficult one. This branch here will probably go, but I don't know. I just picked the best shape that I could find with what I had. You know, the biggest tree this actually has is this great big bustle, and I think I called it the bustle in the previous video. It really meant that there's practically nowhere that you can't see that apart from this end here. You've got real limited options if you want a decent front without the bustle to show, and I couldn't see a design that incorporated it. So, you know, I think sometimes we actually have to, with some of the material we've got, look at the longer game. I'm keeping these branches basically because, you know, I don't want to be taking any more of the needles off, which it needs to do something about that poor root system. But I'm picking a line that's here. We may end up in a few years' time, let this continue to grow up, strengthen, and all the big growth will be up here, and I may end up ginning off all of these and so we end up with some sort of, I don't know, literati. But don't give up on it. I'm not giving up on it, because we don't give up on me baby. No, don't give. Yeah, I've done that song before. I'm not doing it again. Okay, so that's the Mugo Pine done for the year. Really, really happy with how this one is eventually going to turn out. I'm sure it's going to be an absolute star, and hope you got something more out of this. You got to see that leaving needles does promote back budding. You got to see that cutting the candles, albeit a little bit later in the season than I intended, probably should have been nearer the mid to later June, does produce candles at the tips, which should happen anyway, but you got to see that, and you got to see that we may actually get at least one decent tree out of the two. So from Xavier, having Mugo'd out, I'll say thanks very much for watching. All the best, God bless, happy bonsaiing, cheers.